no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. You always pursue. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Yeah. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Living stories that have proved your faithfulness. I've seen miracles my mind can't comprehend. There is beauty in what I can't understand. Jesus, it's you. Oh, Jesus, it's you. And I believe the wonder-working God, the wonder-working God. All the miracles I've seen, too good to not believe. You're the wonder-working God. You heal because you love. All the miracles we'll see. You're too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. You're too good to not believe. And I can't resurrect a man with my own hands, but just the mention of your name can raise the dead. And all the glory to the only God who can. Oh, Jesus, it's you. Jesus, it's you. Yes, it is. Oh, I believe you're the wonder-working God. You're the wonder-working God. The miracles we see, too good to not believe. You're the wonder-working God. You heal because you love. Oh, the miracles we'll see. You're too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. After everything we've seen, you're too good to not believe. Oh, you've done it before, you can do it again. the wonder-working God. Oh, I hope that's the wonder-working God. I believe the wonder-working God. Oh, I hope that's the wonder-working God. I believe the wonder-working God.
politician and I'm not a politician. There's a difference between politics and government. And government is godly, where politics is a spirit. Okay? And it's interesting because the political spirit is the same thing as the religious spirit in the church. Right? It's the same controlling, manipulative spirit that's in the church. And I will say the reason that our government is as much a train wreck as it is because the church allowed it to be that way. Okay? So we know it should be no surprise to you that we are in the shape we're in because the government is a reflection of whatever's happening in the body of Christ, right? And so over the last several years, we started to see major exposures in the body of Christ. The church is going through a complete reformation. I believe God's restoring the fivefold to what its original intention was. And God's bringing holiness back to the body of Christ. And I never in my life ever thought I would be coined as a holiness preacher. This guy with all the tattoos, who does he think he is? But I do have a little bit different definition of what holiness is than probably the Holiness Pentecostal Church does, right? But, the church is a train wreck, so the government is a train wreck. So God is trying to line the church out right now so we can be an influence on our government, right? And so when people say to me, like I had a conversation with Tara, I have this conversation every day. Every day. Look, if it's in your brain, if it's in your mind, hey, we really shouldn't be mixing this, you're not abnormal. You are the normal person that, because we have been taught that for generations and generations and generations, that we should stay out of government. Government should stay over here. The church should stay over here. But that's false. We should be influencing that as much as possible. We should be flooding local, state, and federal government with men and women of God. Period. Period. Now, the only reason I'm doing this is because God told me, because nobody in their right mind would ever step off into what I'm doing. Listen, it is dark. It is evil. Almost as evil as the body of Christ in the United States has become. That's a harsh statement. Let me redefine that, because it's not the body of Christ. It's what we made the church, right? And let me tell you another thing. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a good and evil issue. And what I tell people when I go, the reason you don't see my story, my all these big events, we've been pulling in like 2,000-3,000 people to events in Los Angeles every weekend. It's crazy. Would you ever think 3,000 people would come out to an event for conservatives in Los Angeles? It's an every weekend thing. And God's using our team to do this. It's just absolutely amazing. But the reason you don't see my stories on there is because I don't fit the narrative. Because I get up there and I say things like, I'm not anti-vax. I'm anti you making me get something. You should have the freedom to choose what goes into your body. If you get it, I don't condemn you. That's between you and God. If you prayed about it and God told you to get it. I'm under Shayon. Anybody in here know who Shayon is? So Shayon ordained us, and I'm under HIM. That was at the direction of Patricia, by the way. She organized that whole thing. And Shayon got the vaccine. I mean, he's considered like the apostle of apostles, right? And he got the vaccine. Why did he get it? Because he ministers in Israel. And he couldn't go to Israel without it. And so he prayed, God, do you want me to do this? God said, yes, I'll protect you, whatever it is. Right? So we got to stop shaming people that don't believe like we believe. Right? We're never going to agree 100% with each other on anything. So Democrats aren't my enemy. Liberals aren't my enemy. When I go out and I'm the only one that goes up, I will go right into the crowd of Antifa. Right into the crowd of them. And this is what I say to them. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. They're looking at me like, what, hold up, what? I'm like, don't burn our cities to the ground, but I want you to scream as loud as you want. I want you to have whatever opinion you think you need to have, because that's what our country is about. You are not my enemy. And they just look at me like, wait a second, what? See, Democrats aren't your enemy. Liberals aren't your enemy. Antifa is not your enemy. That's what Satan wants to happen. He wants us to be so divided that we fall. Just like in the church. Well, you don't believe like I believe. You believe this. You believe that. I mean, do you know how many church splits I've seen over eschatology, over end times beliefs? Who cares how he comes back? He's coming back. You know, pre-trib, post-trib, I'm pan-trib, but it'll pan out somehow. You know? I really don't care how he comes back. You know what? When we can figure out the holiness and we can figure out the love each other and we can figure out that stuff, then maybe let's move on to how he comes back.